Hey everyone, my name is Callie Chappelle, and welcome to the video entitled The Format of Debate, which is part of my Go Fight Win Novice series, teaching novice debaters how to do policy debate. So I'm really excited that you're joining us today, and I'm excited to teach you about the format of debate. So, quick thing about me, my name is Callie Chappelle. I'm a debater for the University of Michigan, and in high school I debated for Traverse City Central High School. I'm a second negative, first affirmative speaker, and fun fact about me is I'm a true blue 2N. I love being a 2N, and I've got a lot of 2N pride. So, welcome. Some things to make the most out of these videos, you should do two things. First, take notes, and second, rewatch bits you need re-explained. This video in particular is going to have a lot of debate-specific jargon that you're not necessarily going to be familiar with right away. So this video in particular, you should definitely go back and rewatch because I'm going to be hitting you with a lot of information, and you should definitely make sure that you're staying up, keeping up track with all of that info. Next, hopefully we'll have worksheets and or supplemental materials that go along with the video. Also, for this one in particular, you should pause it and quiz yourself about what you just heard to make sure that you're keeping up, because this one, you will hear all of these terms in every single other video, so I definitely want to make sure you're comfortable with this material. And finally, you don't need to memorize it all, but at least be familiar with everything in the video. It's a building process. And I definitely want to make sure that you at least know all of these terms. So when I say when you need to split the block, you're like, yeah, I know exactly what that means. Finally, this is not the end-all be-all. There are other styles of debate, what you should be doing in each speech. However, no matter what type of policy debate you do, they're going to be the same speech times and the same speech order. So you definitely have to know this one. All right, so do you remember the two sides in a debate? Do you remember? Well, here they are again, the affirmative and the negative. So the affirmative, or AF team, gives a reason why the resolution is good in the form of the affirmative plan. So an example is we should increase farming of aquatic organisms such as fish in the form of aquaculture in the Earth's oceans. The neg team, or the negative team, gives reasons why the AF plan is a bad idea or does not fit under the resolution. So an example of saying why increasing aquaculture, e.g. the AF plan, is a bad idea is that it would be too expensive and hurt the U.S. economy. Okay, so two sides of a debate. This should be a review from previous videos. So here's the general format of debate. Oh, when you see these red terms, these are terms that you should definitely write down. These are key vocab terms that you absolutely must be familiar with. So here's the general format of the debate. There are 8 speeches in a debate. Each team gets a set amount of time to prove their point, so speeches are timed. There's a specific order about who speaks and when. So there's an order of if the first affirmative speaker speaks, then the first negative speaker, and so on. And then, last but not least, there are 4 participants in a debate. Each person gives 1 constructive speech, 1 rebuttal speech, asks questions once, and answers question once. If you remembered in the very first video, the introduction to debate, part 1, I went through all the speaker positions, but I said you don't need to know it then. Now, with this video, after you're finished watching it, you should definitely know all the speaker positions and a little bit about what goes on in each speech. So, get ready, buckle up, because this can be confusing, and don't be afraid to ask questions. Obviously, because I'm on the computer and I'm here and you're there, you can't ask me, you can't raise your hand, but if you have more questions, definitely comment in the comment section, shoot me an email, or try to find other resources online, and of course, ask your coach or varsity debaters, and they'll definitely be happy to help you out. So, let's go. Speaker positions in a debate. So, the AF, remember, there are 4 people in a debate total. There are 2 affirmative and 2 negative speakers. So the AF team is composed of the 1A, or the first affirmative speaker, and the 2A, the second affirmative speaker. The 2A is considered the head or the leader of the AF team. Conversely, on the neg side, there are 2 speakers also. There's the 1N, or the first negative speaker, and then there's the 2N, the second negative speaker, head of the neg team. So when I said that I had a lot of 2N pride, it's because I am the second negative speaker, so I'm the head of the neg team. So usually, one person is the 1A and 2N positions, and their partner is the 1N and 2A positions. So usually, you don't have one debater who's both the 1A and the 1N, or one debater who's the 2A and the 2N. If there is, then you call them double 1s or double 2s. So if I was the 1A, 1N, I would be double 1s. But usually, you want to split it up, so there's equal share of work. Alright, tips and tricks to a good partnership. Here are 5 things that I've learned throughout my time debating that I want to share with you about how to make debate fun by having a fun partnership. So first, always listen to your partner and value their advice. 2 minds are always better than 1. like I said, communicate well while debating, because sometimes your partner will have some insight that you didn't think of, and you definitely want to take that into account so you win the round. Third is learn together. Regardless of whether you win or lose, you can always learn something from every single debate round. Even if it was a crush, whether you got crushed or you crushed another team, there's always something you can be doing better that you could be focused on. Fourth, if you lose, don't beat yourself up or don't beat your partner up after the round with words or actions. Don't actually hit them, obviously, but try to be supportive. Be like, well, this was a tough round for us, but I learned XYZ and I'm going to try to do this better next time. And finally, have fun together. Support one another. When I debate, I always try to give my partner one genuine compliment after the round. I'm not saying you have to do that, but that's something that I always do, and when my partner does that for me, it makes me feel really good, no matter if we lost. So, here's a picture of me at my very first tournament ever, and my very first novice debate partner. There, she's the one who's blonde. So, this is my novice debate partner at our very first tournament. Okay, we took a selfie because we were really young. I do not endorse selfies. And, hey, we're still really good friends, and we even attend the same college or university. We both go to U of M. And you can make friends via partnerships that last forever. Of course, you can have friends that are partnerships that don't last very long, but if you try to make those partnerships work, then it's a really great thing. So, types of speeches. There are two different types. There are constructive speeches, and then there are rebuttal speeches. So, constructives start at the beginning of the debate. They're 8 minutes long, and they're where you make all of your arguments. So, all of the arguments that are going to be in the entire debate have to be made in the constructives. Also, not only do you have to make all your arguments, but you also have to respond to your opponent's new arguments. Each constructive also has a 3-minute cross-examination at the end. Okay? So constructives make arguments, respond to arguments. Rebuttals. These are 5 minutes long, so they're shorter than constructives. And then this is where you give reasons why your arguments are better, and you compare evidence. You also have to respond to arguments, and you cannot make new arguments in these speeches. So the constructives is where you set up your arguments, and rebuttals is where you flesh them out and really explain them and make them persuasive to the judge. So each debater gets 1 constructive speech, 1 rebuttal speech, and 1 cross-examination or cross-ex in a debate round. Okay? So we're good? Moving on. Here are the order of the speeches again. This should look familiar because they were in the introduction to debate video, but I'm going to go through them again. First, I just want you to kind of squint at this and see some big patterns about things that reoccur. So like I said, constructives, you can see, are all here at the beginning of the debate. They're all 8 minutes, and they're all followed by a cross-ex. Okay? So here, and then here are the rebuttals. Rebuttals, they're all at the end. They're all 5 minutes, and there are no cross-exes here, okay? That's the biggest thing that I want you to see. Also, you can see that it switches from affirmative, negative, affirmative, negative, negative, affirmative, negative, affirmative. Oh, wait, it switches here. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. It's going to be called the neg block. Okay, and also you can see that it goes from first the 1s and then the 2s. So 1A, 1N, 2A, 2N. 1N, 1A, 2N, or 2N, 2A, okay? So that was a lot, I know. So here, I even made this super color-coded diagram so you can see who says what when. So if the 1A is all color-coded in red, so it looks like the 1A gives the 1AC, which is constructive, and then gets cross-exed, and then the 1A cross-exes the 1NC, and then the next speech the 1A has is the 1AR, which is a rebuttal, right? Because so everyone, let's see, everyone has 1 constructive, 1 rebuttal, and 1 cross-ex. Let's do the same thing with the 2A. Okay, so the 2A gives the 2AC. The 2A gets cross-exed right after that speech. They cross-ex the 2NC, right? That's 3 minutes. And then they give a rebuttal, the 2AR, which is the very last speech in the debate, right? 5 minutes. So what kind of patterns do you see? Notice the patterns. Most of them are speech times, 8 minutes at the beginning, 5 minutes at the end, 3 minutes for cross-ex, alternating aff and neg speeches, and first the 1s go and then the 2s go, and then the order it alternates between aff and neg. So what I would recommend is pause the video, write this down, and try to commit as much of it to memory as you can. You don't have to memorize it because you can always bring up the sheet that you're going to write down as a cheat sheet in a debate to tell you when to go. But soon after you start debating, it'll really become intuitive and it'll be clear, especially when you learn how to flow, which is our special note-taking technique, that you'll know exactly when to go. So, pop quiz. What are the 4 speaker positions? What are the 2 types of speeches? What is the order of speeches in a debate? What speech comes after the 2AC, ignoring the cross-ex? What speech comes after the 1AC, ignore the cross-ex? Who cross-examines the 1N speaker? Who gives the last speech in a debate? Who is the head of the neg team? Oops, let's go back. Okay, So, you've seen the questions. Pause the video. Write the answers to the questions down on a sheet of paper. Okay, pause. Do it. Okay, now I'm going to go through the answers. What are the 4 speaker positions? 1A, 2A, 1N, 2N. What does 1A stand for? First affirmative speaker. What does 2N stand for? Second negative speaker. What are the 2 types of speeches? Rebuttals and constructives. Constructives are 8 minutes long, rebuttals are 5 minutes long. What is the order of speeches in a debate? Goes 1AC, 1NC, 2AC, 2NC, 1NR, 1AR, 2NR, 2AR. What speech comes after the 2AC? Ignoring cross-X is the 2NC. What does 2NC stand for? Second negative constructive. It's a constructive. How long is it? 8 minutes. What speech comes after the 1AC? Is the 1NC. It's a constructive. How long are constructives? 8 minutes long. Who cross-examines the 1N speaker? Well, the 1N will be giving a constructive, the 1NC, and also rebuttal, the 1NR. Now, do rebuttals have cross-X's? No. So that means that I must be talking about the 1NC. Who cross-X's the 1NC? Well, the person who cross-X's a speech is the speaker who's not going next from the opposite team. So that means that the cross-Xer of the 1NC must be the 1A. Alright, so the 1A cross-examines the 1N speaker. Who gives the last speech in a debate? That's the 2AR. That's a super important speech, and you should definitely know it. And who is the head of the neg team? Well, usually that's the second speaker, so that would be the 2N, or the second negative speaker. Okay? If you have any questions about the rationale behind answering these questions, rewatch the first part of this video, or comment in the comment section, or ask your varsity. Prep time. So, you have time in a debate round to prepare your speeches. This is called prep time, or just prep. Most judges give you 8 minutes to prep, although at some special tournaments they give you 10 minutes to prep, like they do at the Glen Brooks tournament, I know. So, you can ask for prep time before any of your speeches. So, for example, if you're AF, you can have prep time before the 1AC, the 2AC, the 1AR, the 2AR. Most teams don't take prep time before the 1AC. You can prep, well, the other team is taking prep time as well. So, obviously, the neg team will probably take prep before the 2NC. So, while they're prepping the 2NC, you can also be preparing your speeches as well. So, work well with your partner to make the most out of your prep time, because 8 minutes seems like a lot, but actually isn't a ton when you have to prep quite a bit of, 13 minutes of speeches. But 8 minutes total isn't enough time to prepare 26 minutes of speeches. Yeah, well, most preparation for speeches actually occurs before the debate even starts. So this is why research and preparation beforehand matters so much. So if you're well prepared before the debate, you can take less prep time writing kind of things that you could have prepared beforehand, and more time adapting and making your strategy unique to the particular debate round that you're in. Research is done before tournaments. Okay? The 1AC and most of the 1NC speeches are pre-written before a debate round if you're prepared, so those 2 speeches shouldn't take any prep. But the biggest things to minimize your prep time is to know where things are in your Dropbox, and if you hear a new argument, write down a response after the round, so you don't have to think of it again when you hear the argument again. You already have a response written. So, like, let's say that I hear the state's counterplan, and I've never heard this argument in my life before, and the judge gives me some helpful advice, and we had the round, so now I kind of understand. Write a block to the state's counterplan right away after the round, and next time you hear it, you'll already have something ready to go. Flowing. So, this is, again, red term, make sure you write it down. It's a method that we use to keep track of what has been said and quickly organize our speeches. So, it's a note-taking technique. We'll talk about this more later. I'm going to have a whole video about flowing. Just so you know, though, flowing is a way in which we take notes in debate, and it's very special. Okay, so speeches. I'm going to go through each speech and also talk about its main purpose. Okay? We're going to go more in depth when we have our videos specifically about the AF and the neg, but this is just a big idea kind of thing about what we want to be doing in each speech. So, how do you know who gives what speech? Well, it's easy. It's just in the name. So let's break it down. Let's start with the example of the 2AC. So 2A, this is who gives a speech. So in this case, a 2A, or the second affirmative speaker, and C shows what kind of speech. In this case, it's a constructive speech. So the 2AC is a speech that the 2A gives that's a constructive, aka 8 minutes long. Okay? Pop quiz. 1NR. Who gives a speech? What type of speech is it? Write it down. Pause the video. Okay, I'm going to assume that you wrote it down, and I'm going to assume that you got it right, and you said the 1N, or the first negative speaker, gives a speech, and the type of speech is a rebuttal. Quick question. How long is a rebuttal? 5 minutes, that's right. And does a rebuttal have a cross-X after it? No, it doesn't. Okay, hey, I've got some more questions for you. What speech comes before the 1NR? If you said the 2NC, you'd be right. What speech comes after the 1NR? If you said 1AR, you'd be right. Okay, so let's go. 1AC, first affirmative constructive. So the goal of the 1AC is for the AF team to present their proposed action and explain why it's better than the current system, aka the status quo or the SQUO, or some people just write SQ for status quo. The 1AC is pre-scripted or prepared before the debate. So there's usually this order for the 1AC. First is the plan. So this is the action that you propose to take. So here's an example. The United States Congress has substantially increased development of offshore integrated multi-trophic aquaculture in the United States exclusive economic zone through financial incentives and permits regulated by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association. Note, if you're reading the aquaculture AF, your AF actually has inherency first and then the plan, but you can mess around with those orders as much as you'd like. Okay, second is inherency, so that's why your plan or your action isn't being done now. Harms, or advantages, are problems with the current situation. And then fourth is solvency, which are reasons why doing the plan will solve the problems that you presented. We're going to go more in depth about how to make a 1AC and parts of a 1AC and your AF specifically in later videos, but you should just know that these are the 4 parts of a 1AC. Next is the 1NC. This is where the negative responds to the 1AC, or the AF plan, and gives reasons why it's a bad idea. So there are a variety of arguments that can be made or quote-unquote run in the 1NC. So you run arguments in the 1NC, which we will talk about tomorrow or later in the week or in later videos. Okay, so the goal of the 1NC is to prove that the AF's plan causes more problems than it helps. So, aka the AF's harms are worse than its advantages. Okay, so there are on-case arguments and off-case arguments. On-case arguments are arguments that are directly in response to the AF plan's advantages. So those are reasons why the AF plan it can't solve, or its impacts aren't so bad. Okay, so these are ones that are specifically about the AF plan. Then there are off-case arguments. These are other arguments that give reasons why the affirmative plan is a bad idea. So for future reference, disads, counterplans, critiques, and topicality are all examples of off-case arguments, and they will all have videos for you to watch here. So this page is mainly pre-scripted, and since you usually know the other team's AF plan beforehand, you can have the 1NC already prepared before the debate round starts. Actually, before the debate round starts, you can ask the team what AF they're reading, and usually they'll tell you. So in like the 10-15 minutes of time before a round starts, you can already be preparing the speech even before the debate gets started. Okay, the next speech is the 2AC, or second affirmative constructive. So the goal of the 2AC is twofold. First, you need to explain again, or extend, that's a word you should know, the reasons why your AF plan is a good idea. And second, you should respond to all negative arguments about why your AF plan is bad. So you need to respond to arguments in the order the 1NC made them. So, okay, this doesn't mean, this is a little bit confusing, and we'll talk about this more when we talk about road mapping, but like, for example, if you're answering an AF or their arguments on an AF advantage, you should answer their arguments in the same order that they made them. So remember when we talked about line by line and refutation, or you might not have seen this video, when we talk about line by line, then that is, you should do your line by line debating in the order of the previous speech. So again, the 2AC, much of this speech is also pre-scripted if you're well prepared. You should know what arguments the neg team will make against you in general, so you can prepare responses. So there are common arguments that you'll hear, and so you should already be prepared to debate those. And this is what's called making blocks. So blocks are for both the AF and neg team, and we'll talk about how to make them later in the week or in later videos. Often, arguments in your 1AC are responses to neg arguments. So you can use your 1AC in the 2AC as well. Okay, the next part is the negative block. This is a really important term for you to know, neg block. That is the 2NC and the 1NR. So the next two speeches are both made by the negative, and together they're known as a negative block or just the block. Even though the negative has to respond to all arguments made in the 2AC, the neg team has two speeches to answer because the 2NC happens and then the 1NR happens right after that. So instead of repeating the same thing twice, what we do is we split the block. That's a really important term you should definitely know, and you should definitely do in every round. This means that the neg team divides up what they're going to say, so the 2N says half of it in the 2NC, and the 1N says the other half in the 1NR. How you want to split it up, how you want the, like, what you want the 2N to take and what you want the 1N to take varies in the round and can depend on kind of your expertise or like what you want to talk about. but you shouldn't talk about the same thing in both speeches. You should split it up. So decide what arguments you want to make in the block before the cross-sex of the 2AC. Why do you do this? Well, who cross-sexes the 2AC? If you said it was the 1N, you'd be right. And the 1N, obviously, is giving a speech in the block. So if you tell the 1N what you want them to be saying in the 1NR, then they can ask cross-sex questions specifically for things that'll help them for their speech. Okay, so goals for the negative block. There are 4 biggies. First is to respond to every argument made in the 2AC. Well, that's pretty easy because you have 13 minutes of a block and the 2AC is only 8 minutes. You should create and deploy a winning strategy for the end of the debate, aka the 2NR. You should make more arguments than the AF team can respond to in the 1AR, because that'll make the 1AR, which is only 5 minutes, really time pressured. And remember that the 1NR is shorter than the 2NC, but they have more time to prepare. Also remember that the 1NR is rebuttal, so you can't make new arguments. You can only talk about arguments you made in the 1NC and respond to affirmative arguments. So what does this mean? In the 1NR usually takes like more specialized arguments that require more prep time because the 1NR has more prep time than the 2NC. And also, you should make sure that the 1NR isn't making new arguments, that they are taking something that you've already well established in the 1NC. Okay, let's talk about the 1AR. This is the first affirmative rebuttal. So the goal of the 1AR is to build on arguments made in the 2AC, and answer all arguments made in the negative block. So the 1AR is not going to have enough time to talk about every single argument made in the 2AC. So the 1A has to pick which arguments are the best and the ones that they're winning, and most importantly, focus in on the arguments that will win you the debate and explain those very well. It's much better to explain less very well than a lot poorly. So how does the 1A decide that? Well, mostly it takes practice, and you just have to get a feel for what arguments are kind of the biggest threats, what arguments you're winning, and you should most certainly collaborate very much with your 2A, because your 2A has to give the final speech, and for you to help your 2A give the 2AR, you need to make sure that the arguments in the 1AR are there to support the 2A. So you should highly collaborate with your 2A, and your 2A will tell you kind of what arguments that they want to go for in the 2AR. So the 2NR is the second to last speech, and that's the second negative rebuttal. And the goal of the 2NR is to explain a package that will win you the debate. So explain why doing the AF is a worse idea than not doing the AF or the status quo, or why doing something other than the AF, like an alternative action, is better than the AF. So every 2NR must include, in this order, 2 parts. First is an overview. So if you remembered 3 things from my speech, the most important 3 things are, and then you insert what the most important 3 things are. And then second is you refute every affirmative argument made in the 1AR about the argument that you're making, okay? So that's super important. You can't drop arguments. You can't forget to respond to arguments in the 1AR. And you also need to give the judge a big reason why they should vote negative. We'll talk more about the details about how to do this in subsequent videos. And the last speech in the debate is the 2AR, the second affirmative rebuttal. So the goal of the 2AR is to explain why doing the AF is a better idea than not doing the AF, or doing nothing, or doing something else. So every 2AR must include, in this order, first an explanation of what the AF plan does. If the judge hasn't understood it yet, they obviously need to understand it by the last speech in the debate. You need to explain why the AF is a good idea, so what your advantages are, what your impacts are. You should explain 3, why the world of the AF plan is better than a world without the AF plan, whether the world without the AF plan is just the status quo, or a world with an alternative action, depending on what the neg said in the 2NR. And then 4th is you need to refute all negative arguments from the 2NR. So, because this is a list, does this mean that I can just pick 2 and then do those? No, you actually have to do all 4 of these things in the 2AR. So that's why you have to finesse it and make sure that you do all of these things and do all of them well to give a stellar 2AR. Alright, that was a lot. I know that was a lot to take in. It's okay. It's like me explaining having the game of basketball, me explaining the game of basketball without you ever seeing a basketball game. You're going to be a little bit confused. But we'll have a demo debate hopefully posted online, and if not, I'm sure you'll have a demo debate in your class, and you'll see kind of how this works, and it'll make a lot more sense. Also, you'll be giving your own speech for a mini debate sometime soon, and the best way to learn is by doing it. So don't be freaked out. It's kind of a lot of information, but as long as you listen and you're open to trying new things, and you'll do just fine. And we'll also have new videos coming detailing each speech individually. So, we're going to do a quick activity, and you might be able to do this in your classroom, or you're probably not going to be able to do this alone, but I'm just have this activity here as something that you can do to practice this. So take a look at the activity, pause the video. If you want to do this activity, go for it. If you don't, we'll just keep moving on, and that's totally fine. So pause or unpause, your call. And finally, cross-examination. Or cross-ex. At the end of every constructive speech, there's a 3-minute cross-examination. Judges don't usually write down what happens in cross-ex. It's commonly accepted that what's said in cross-ex is binding in the debate round. So, for example, if your partner admits a major concession to the other team, you can't just say, oops, I lied in the next speech, and then say the opposite. Okay, we're going to have a video just about cross-examination, so you'll learn more about this then. If you're good at cross-ex, judges will give you higher speaker points. Do you remember speaker points? Those are the points that judges assign you at the end of the debate, kind of ranking you about how good of a speaker they think you are. Use all 3 minutes of cross-ex. It's free prep time for your partner, so there's no excuse. Even if you have a hard time thinking of questions, just try to make up some questions to ask that still make you look smart so your partner can be prepping. And don't worry too much about it right now. Make sure you understand everything else first, like what the order of the speeches are and what to be doing in each speech, and that'll help you give a better cross-ex. Okay, last term, signposting or road mapping. These are two terms that mean the same thing. And what they mean is this. At the beginning of your speech, say the order of the arguments that you'll be addressing so the judge knows how you will organize your speech. So each argument that you have, each big argument you'll have, will be on a separate sheet of paper. So the reason why you want to tell the judge the order of your arguments or the order of the pieces of paper is so the judge can organize their own sheets of paper. So when you're transitioning from argument to argument, it's very easy. They can just move the sheet of paper so the next one is right there for them as you talk about that argument. So you'll give the order of the off-case arguments and advantages only. You don't have to give the order of each individual argument on each piece of paper. You just have to give the order of the pieces of paper in general. Okay? So here are the big ideas. First, there are speaker positions and time limits. You don't have to memorize it right now. You can always just create a cheat sheet and bring it up in the debate that'll tell you the speaker positions and the time limits. Second, you need to know that each speaker has a certain responsibility. So you should know what your role is in the debate. And if you don't know, you need to go back and look at the video once you find out what speaker position you're going to be. So that being the 1A, 2N, or the 1N, 2A. And third, don't freak out. Yes, there's a process to the debate, but we do not expect you to learn it at once. It takes time and practice. And honestly, I've seen many top varsity debaters forget when they're supposed to speak. I've spoken at the wrong time, which is a little bit embarrassing when you've been debating for 4 or 5 years, but that's okay. We all mess up, right? And novices are no different than varsity debaters. I've even seen top judges forget who was supposed to speak or how much time they were supposed to be given for speaking, and they set their timer wrong, and not everybody messes up sometimes. So really, don't feel bad if you have a boo-boo at the beginning, because you'll recover and everybody does it. So no one's gonna judge you for it. Okay? So that's the end of this lecture, and I hope you learned a lot, and I hope you join us for the next couple of videos. Thanks. Bye.